Good morning. Welcome back. Last week was a heck of a week. If you guys are following my shorts feed, you'll notice that my well unfortunately gave up. The well pump and the holding tank both were garbage. They're old. I mean, I guess they've been in the ground for over 30 years and they weren't made of the best materials, and unfortunately probably have never been serviced since this building sat vacant for 15 years. Unfortunately, they gave up last week and set me in kind of a tailspin, so it took me most of the week to get that resolved. But today we're back at it. Today we're going to be working on the 48WL. We're going to get these valves put back in it since I finally have the correct keepers. I was going to put the old keepers back in. Something inside said don't do that, get new ones, so I ordered new ones. Unfortunately, through buying parts, sometimes you run into getting incorrect parts. And even with this section, I got 7 keepers instead of 8. So I'm waiting for the seller to respond and tell me what they're going to do with that. Anyway, we're going to get going on this and get this thing together and show you guys how this works. Show you the process of putting it together and what parts are needed. From the Harley 45 Operation and Maintenance Manual, 45 type engine upper end assembly has a great breakdown of kind of how everything goes together, what washers and all the parts and whatnot, the parts breakdown, excuse me. So you can kind of see how this thing goes back together. So I'm going to follow that today when I'm putting these cylinders and valves back together. I do have my gaskets available and I have my new set of keepers set aside. I'm going to move these parts over here. I'm going to grab the front cylinder head and we're going to start there. With the front head, we've got the exhaust valve and the intake valve. And those were separated in each one of their bags. We're going to start on the exhaust side first. I do still have the stock keepers in there and I'm going to hang on to those for now. And following the parts guide, this breakdown here shows that there's a washer that's going to go on top of this cup. So we're going to set that on there for now. And then there's one of these bands that goes on the inside. And it looks like that fits all the way up to the top, and that's where I actually picked the last ones out of. So I'm not sure if it makes more sense to put it in here first or to actually slide it over the top half. And I'm going to slide it over the top half since that seems like that's going to be the path of least resistance. We'll slide that down. That one's in place now. Put the cap, the top portion back into this. And there we are. Now that should seal up nicely. With that being said, what we're going to do is we're going to turn this on its side here, give myself a little bit of working room, and we're going to put that exhaust valve in. With the exhaust valve in place, then we'll want to put on that gasket. With that gasket in place, then we're able to slide on this whole setup here. We'll push that down and out of the way for now. Next we'll put our spring in. With the spring in place, what we're going to do next is we're going to put the cap on. And the cap's got 2 ends. It's got this end here that the keepers fit into, and it's a little larger. It actually fits the keepers really well. And it's got a smaller end here, and obviously those keepers don't fit in there. So this is the end you want facing up. So we're going to put that in next. Now, we're going to grab our handy dandy valve tool. And I know I don't have this set properly, so I'm hoping that I can get enough movement out of this to make it work. I feel like that's going to crush it down far enough, so with that being said, I'm going to tighten this up. And that should be good there. We'll unlock it, open it up, and we're going to move the valve, the whole apparatus here onto its side. We'll get the whole cylinder flipped here, try to keep everything in place, and show you guys how this works. So with the forked end here, this you can actually compress together to keep it on the springs, and that's something that you can set. Doing all this with one-handed is always difficult. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten that down so it actually holds this seat in place here. As you can see, it's holding the seat on the bottom here, and it's holding the valve in place on the top. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give this a squeeze, which will compress that spring all the way down. The nice thing is this actually locks in place. So if you can see on the bottom here, that gives me room to actually start setting these keepers into where they go. I think I've got enough room to do that. I do have this a little off-centered, so that's not going to work the way I want it to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unlock this. I've got that a little too tight, so I'm going to loosen this up just a little bit. Try to get that in that channel quite a bit further. If I get more bite on it, I should be able to pull this down pretty square. The key is trying to keep this as square as possible, so that way you can get these keepers in place. I think we're better now. We need one more click on this guy. I think that'll work. Now we'll slide our keepers in place. With those in place, we'll give it a little bit of a squeeze here to unlock this and slowly let this depress back down. And as you can see, we've got one valve installed. So the keepers are holding everything in place right now. We've got that cup in place, we've got the spring compressed, we've got our cover there. So that takes care of the whole works. So that's the whole process. That's how that works. The valve is sitting in there real nice. With that one done, we'll work on the intake valve next. Like any project, these things take time. And there's a little bit of finesse back and forth to get these tools to work properly. These are not the right tools for this application. These are not Harley Davidson tools. These are automotive tools. They will work. I've got a couple of these compressor clamps. The other one I don't think would work any better. This is the one I feel is best suited for this application. So we'll go ahead and we'll work on this intake valve next. We'll slide this guy down into place. And typically you want to coat these with an assembly lube. That's something I don't have, unfortunately. And I'm at the point where I'm just doing the work, and I might regret this later. I may spray these with a little bit of lubricant here once I get everything together and hope that keeps everything kind of fresh. Unfortunately, I didn't go to the hardware store today or the automotive store and buy assembly lubricant, which I should have. Pull one more set of gaskets out here. We'll go ahead and get this one on first. It's amazing, these are a rubber gasket, and the old ones were completely solid on these parts, and they were in really bad shape. I had to pick them out. All right, that one's all set there. The old top gasket, didn't even realize that was on there. There's the new gasket. So we'll slide that new gasket in place. We'll slide this setup over everything, holding the valve in place. With those in place, we'll get the spring set in here. And we'll get our cup on the bottom. With that cup on the bottom, we'll go ahead and grab our compressor here. And again, we'll try to get the jaws down as far as possible to get a good bite on this. And then we'll go ahead and we'll try to square this up and then get a good compression on here to try to keep this square. I think we did a good job that time. So we'll go ahead and we'll get these keepers in place. They're covered in brand new grease, so they're super sticky. Stick right to your fingertips. With those in place, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and depress this. Slowly follow that all back into place. There's our second valve installed. As you can see, the keepers are nice and flat on there. Everything's all in place, and this cylinder is ready for reinstallation. Now with this one done, we'll move to the rear cylinder and repeat the process again. Trade spaces with these guys. We'll start in the same spot. We do the intake, or excuse me, the exhaust valve first. As you can see, we're sliding that exhaust valve right into place. Right down the guide there. We'll grab our gaskets again. Slide the rubber O-ring right down the top cover. And put those back together. Now we'll put our top gasket on. We'll put our covers on. Just looking that over to make sure it all fits nicely and it's going to play nice in there. It looks like it will. Didn't think it was going to at first. Our spring in place. Our bottom cap back on. And again, we will grab spring compressor. Go ahead and slowly compress that down. That compressed real well. Get our keepers in place. We'll go ahead and decompress this. And there we have it. Exhaust valve installed. So that one's ready as well. Being that I only have one extra keeper, I'm unfortunately stuck at this point. I cannot put the intake valve on properly. I could use the old keepers, but I'm going to choose not to. The spring compressor I'm using is actually an old Sears Craftsman automotive tool. You can pick these up just about anywhere, and this one actually works really well for what we're doing. It's a little loose, you know, it's a little old. I'm not sure when they produced these things. I know this rivet's going to have to be addressed because this thing does want to rotate a lot, and because it wants to rotate a lot, then of course it doesn't want to lock evenly on both sides of these jaws. So something you have to kind of watch. But these are online for, I think, 50 bucks or less. I'm not really sure. I haven't looked at them in a long time. You can buy, I believe you can buy Harley specific ones too. I didn't go that route because I wasn't looking for that because I do have these. Unfortunately, this is where we're going to end the video today. I cannot, finish the assembly on these because I do not have all of the parts. With these cylinders, I have chosen not to refinish them. I am not going to strip the old oil off and then clean these up and then repaint them. I do like the look of them worn this way. I do understand that the engine cases and the transmission and whatnot are all clean and they look new, but I do like the worn look on these, so I'm going to keep that. It's something I personally like. That's up to you guys on how you want to refinish yours. You can strip them down, you can get them repainted, you can clean them up any way you'd like and refinish them however. For me, I like the look. The bike is going to be rough, it's not going to get repainted, it's not going to get refinished, it's not going to get restored to that level. It's going to be a riding motorcycle, and I want it to look like it's 76 years old. Anyway, I thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you guys sticking through the video. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Once I have the rest of my parts, we'll do a follow-up video and show you how that works. Hopefully, end of the week or so, I'll be able to get the other half of this keeper set up and I'll get that other valve installed. We'll see. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet and you like this type of content, please feel free to subscribe. It looks like YouTube's analytics shows that 94% of the people watching my videos are not subscribed, so I'm looking to gain all the subscriptions that I can. As always, I appreciate you guys. Stay tuned to the next video. We'll see you around.